with that, Jim, take it away.
Hello there. My name's Jim Walker with HackRepair.com. If you ever have any of those nagging security questions that come up, definitely give me a call. I like talking to people on the phone. So I'm one of those security geeks who actually like to talk to you. So give me a yell and I'll take care of you. Today I'm going to move into the lightning part of the presentation. I'm going to talk mainly about community blogging, and this is only going to be very short, maybe 5 minutes. Much of this is going to talk about user roles. Do any of you have blogs or WordPress websites that have guest writers? Do we have any guest writers? Well, one of the biggest issues that people run into with the setting up of a website, like a church website or a nonprofit, which is what I work with, is the concept of having guest writers, but also trying to keep your website secure. So if you were to have a guest writer sign up for your website and they want to write about some topic, and that's all wonderful. You set up a user for them, and then you go ahead and set them up as an author, which I prefer. You can set up some other options as well, but I like to use author. When you give them the author role, that gives them the ability to only really edit their articles, right? It's their articles, they're the author. They can't edit the other articles, but they can publish. All right. So if that doesn't make sense to you, or why that's an important thing for me to talk about, is that when you give someone the ability to write on your website, you're giving them the ability to write on your website. They can add articles. They can have their password stolen because they're at the local coffee shop with a non-secured connection, and some hacker can come in and publish 1 million articles about some adult enhancement drug, right? So you want to reduce the ability for your guest writers to publish, right? Because if you give everybody the ability to publish, then you're going to go on vacation for a couple of weeks and come back and they're going to write an article that maybe your church website doesn't appreciate. Maybe it's about some political thing that doesn't work with the concept of your website. So what I'm going to talk about real quick is how I handled this sort of dilemma. And what happened was that a client came to me and said, I want to have, on my particular church site, I want to be able to have some guest writers who are going to be doing photography and talking about events and those sorts of social activities. And then I said, well, that's a great thing, but do you know these people? Well, no. I mean, photographer is a barber guy that I know. I met him once. I don't know who he is. Well, first thing I said was, well, don't let him write for you if you don't know who he is, because he can write anything he wants unless you take additional steps. So the long and short of it is that I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. And I'm going to do it very quickly. It's going to be very easy. I wrote an article on this. It's actually posted in the Meetup group, so in the Meetup list of presentations. I put my link in there, so if you'd like to read this later, you can. So what I just kind of alluded to is that you can give a person the role of author, which is a wonderful thing, and it's wonderful to have someone else write for you. And a couple of you folks here do that. You have people write on your blogs and stuff, and it takes away from your chores. It lets you do other more salesy things while other people are writing good quality content. But you always want to be able to review that content before you publish it. So that's the downside of just giving somebody the author role. You give them the author role, and what happens? They go crazy. They write stuff, they click the publish button on the weekend, and it's just bad writing. And you come in on a Monday and you wish they hadn't done it. But you gave them the ability to publish. So what I'm going to talk about is how to set up finer control of that editorial process. So what I've done here is I've given you a few options, and I'm just going to be very lowbrow. I'm not going to talk about user role, editor, or anything like that. We're going to use off-the-shelf plugins to do this. So a few that I would just recommend you take a look at is Edit Flow, User Access Manager, and Capability Manager Enhanced. I'm not going to get into the talk about that because I'm going to go right into what I did and how you can do it. In particular, this particular client, they had this church website and they needed to be able to limit the role of their author so that they could not publish. They didn't want the person to be able to write about the most recent Sunday event and then also publish it before the manager of the website had a chance to look at it. So what I recommended he do is we went to a plugin and chose Capabilities Manager Enhanced. And I'm just going to quickly show you how it works because it's crazy easy. And it'll give you the ability to take your nonprofit, get them to get those authors that you need to build up the content on your website, but do it in a safe way. And how we did this, and I'm just going to show you a real example of it, is I set up, on my site, I set up two authors. Emma Writer is an author, and then of course I'm the administrator. Now what's interesting is that Emma Writer can edit and can do things like set categories and do a number of other things. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on her article real quick. And there's nothing special to it. It's just an article. And I can do things as an author. I'm logged in as her at the moment. As an author, I can do things like update. I can do all of that in there, which is wonderful. I can go look at the other posts, but I can't edit the administrator posts or other author posts, and that's all wonderful, right? Now, in the this is a totally different setup. This is where I'm logged in as the administrator. Now, as the administrator, I can obviously do anything. I can edit the articles anytime I want. Now, I'm going to jump over to my plugins. Currently, I have the Capability Manager Enhanced disabled. So I'm going to run back to what you would experience if you took no action. You just gave an author the ability to write. Okay, so this is Emma. I'm Emma Writer again. I have the Emma Writer account on. So I click on Add New Posts. So this is a demonstration. Now right now it has, I think I already have the plugin enabled. So I'm not going to talk about that. But normally what happens is when I go to add a new post, where it says submit for review, it actually says publish. But with the Capability Manager Enhanced plugin set up, then when I actually set the capabilities for Emma, it'll look a lot like this. So with the actual plugin in place, it gives me the ability to set up the ability for that person to edit posts, publish posts, and it gives me the ability to restrict access. So what I do is I go over here and I'm going to make sure that all of my authors, I'm going to load the settings for my authors. Okay, so the way I have it set up on this website is that all of my authors have the ability to edit posts, and also they can edit their published post, but you see that they can't publish. So in theory, if I'm over here, if I'm the actual Emma Writer, okay, so I can update, and then as you saw before, is when I actually go to add a post, I can add a post, but with that particular setup that I showed you before, where I'm only limiting the ability for them to post and edit and publish, or edit, published, and also edit, they can't actually publish. So the bottom line here is that with this particular plugin that I'm presenting here, that you can use it to limit the ability for your person to post, which is a wonderful thing because it gives you the ability to limit their ability to publish, and then you'll actually, when they click the review, you'll actually get a notice, and then you can edit it and publish it. So do you see the value of that, having the ability to reduce their publishing ability? And it's very simple to do, and you can do it with this very easy to use plugin, which is the Capability Manager Enhanced. Let's see if I had anything else in here that was helpful. As you can see from this, that's what it looks like once it's set, as they submit for review. Normally they would actually be able to publish it. So that pretty much summarizes the whole concept of just the ability to limit an author, the ability or limit the author's ability using the role editor to actually prevent them from publishing wildly whenever they want. So does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Does it allow you to remove buttons from the left side of the WordPress, or is it just within the?
No, this particular talk is focused specifically on reducing the user role of the user, and that's a different discussion. We are talking about limiting the interface for the client. That's a totally different thing. But I think you're referring to the very left column where you allow them to do things like get into testimonials and slides. So that's a different. There's a plugin for that. We have a plugin for that as well. Yeah.
I wrote for an online paper a couple years ago where edit flow was used.
It's very nice.
Is this very, very similar? Or is this
Edit flow is too complicated for me. I thought edit flow was more for an organization who's really trying to master the publishing concept. This is more for limiting user use, whereas edit flow does this, but does a lot of other things as well. It's like this is really more for managing just, let's say, an author roles with some other limiting factors. But the other one does allow you to, I seem to recall it said you were allowed to set some tasks, and there were some miscellaneous things you could do to make the editorial process kind of go through a flow process, which is why it's called edit flow. The way that I've used this is that it doesn't, once you have the ability to edit it, and then once you publish it, I could set it back to draft format, and they would have the ability to edit it. So the other plugins that I mentioned earlier, the other plugins do allow you to do some more in-depth things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, that's why I gave you three. I gave you three options so you can kind of play with them. If you find that this one's too limited, because this was the easiest to use. This is one I could give to administrator of a website and say, just go crazy, and they could get their stories, review them, publish them, done, move on to the next. There was one other person? Yeah, Devin.
Yeah. Is this a free plugin?
Yep, yeah, it's a free plugin.
Cool. And is EditFlow a plugin? I've never heard of that one.
EditFlow is a plugin.
Is it a free one?
It's a free one. But they do have other options on it. Let me bring it up.
It's like a premium product.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so like I said, you can do with this particular one, which is the remove dashboard access. Actually, how did I get to that? It's interesting. Okay, so when you talked about the removing it, because I was thinking along the same lines in your earlier concept of how am I going to remove those left items. Well, I just showed that's how you do it. You can remove dashboard access and some other things, because I was trying to do that. I accidentally linked it wrong. Yeah, exactly. I got to go back and fix my article. User access is also very, very in-depth and detailed. I don't believe it has a paid option, but it's quite involved. Let me go back to the original one, which is edit flow. Since I've obviously was working on a couple things when I wrote this, let's go ahead and get the edit flow plugin. Edit flow, like I said, is crazy, and you can really do some crazy stuff with it, and it definitely has a premium opportunity. You can get in there and do scheduling of things.
It looks kind of like co-schedule.
Yeah. In progress, shows you everything, like he mentioned. Simon mentioned earlier that it really is detailed. If you really want to get into the world of publishing and managing articles, then I would definitely take a look at that edit flow. Any other questions? All right, so that ends my talk. Thank you very much.